So diving into idioms, It's like, I think these are actually kind of a secret weapon for sounding really fluent in English. You know what I mean?
Right. It's not just about, like, knowing the words. It's about really using them the way native speakers do.
Exactly. So how about we, like, unpack some of those quirky phrases, those idioms, and, like, really get into how to actually use them in conversations.
Sounds good. And you know what I think is so cool about idioms is that they often have this, like, vivid picture that goes way beyond just the words themselves.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, imagine someone says, break a leg before you go on stage or give a big presentation.
Oh, man, that's a good one.
Yeah, right.
You'd think they were, like, wishing you harm.
Exactly.
But it actually means good luck.
It does. It does. And it's thought to have come from this old theater superstition where, directly wishing someone good luck would actually give them bad luck.
Oh, wow.
So break a leg was this, like, reverse psychology thing.
That is so interesting. It's kind of like, when people say knock on wood, to, like, ward off bad vibes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Speaking of superstitions, have you ever heard the phrase once in a blue moon?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
I even use it myself sometimes. But to be honest, I never really thought about, like, what a blue moon actually is.
Well, it doesn't really mean that the moon actually turns blue. It's just like a fun way of saying that something happens super rarely. Like, I only eat junk food once in a blue moon.
Right. It just adds a little, like, color to your English.
It does.
I love that. It's like those idioms make language so much more, like, expressive and interesting, don't you think?
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, imagine you're at a party, right? And you accidentally, like, spill this huge secret.
Oh.
In English, we'd say you let the cat out of the bag.
Ooh, I like that one. I could just picture it. Like, that secret's a cat, and it's like bursting out of a bag that you were supposed to keep closed.
Exactly, yeah. And it often happens, totally by accident, which kind of makes it even funnier.
Totally. But is there, like, a different idiom we use if someone reveals a secret on purpose?
Oh, yeah, totally. We'd say they spill the beans. Like, they're deliberately giving away information, maybe even gossiping a little.
Oh, so it's all about intention. Letting the cat out of the bag is an accident, and spilling the beans is, like, on purpose. Okay, I'm starting to see the nuances here.
Exactly. And that's what makes mastering idioms so rewarding. You're not just learning, like, vocabulary list. You're learning how native speakers actually express themselves.
That's a good point. Speaking of beans, I've been meaning to ask you about this one. What does it mean to spill the tea? I hear that one all the time these days.
Oh, that is such a good example of how idioms, can change over time. Spilling the tea is, well, it's more of a slang term, really. It means gossiping or sharing, like, juicy information. But it has this, like, extra layer of excitement or drama to it.
So it's like a modern day version of spilling the beans.
Exactly. Language never sits still. It's always evolving. And idioms reflect that. So, you got to stay on top of the trends to keep your English sounding, well, fresh and natural.
I'm already feeling so much more confident, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
This deep dive is giving me the tools to, not just understand these idioms, but actually use them myself.
That's fantastic. And remember, learning idioms should be fun. Don't be afraid to play around with them and experiment.
I'm ready for more. Let's keep exploring.
Okay, let's do it. As you kind of level up in your English learning journey, you'll start seeing these idioms that are a bit more, like, well, nuanced, I guess you could say.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like, they might show up in some pretty specific situations, like maybe at work or, out with friends.
Right. Okay. So, like, are there any idioms that I could use to, like, impress my boss during a meeting? You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. So, like, let's say you're starting a brand new project and you really want to show your boss that you're ready to, like, jump right in and get things done. You could say something like, I'm ready to hit the ground running.
Okay. I like that one. I could totally see myself using that.
Right. It just sounds so much better than just, like, saying, I'm ready to work hard.
Totally. It's, like, way more dynamic,
Yeah.
Like, you're not just willing to work, but you're already, like, in motion and full of energy and ready to go.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. So what about if I need to describe a situation where someone, like, took on way too much, like they're in over their head?
Oh, there's a perfect idiom for that. You could say they bit off more than they can chew.
Uh-huh. Oh, I love that one. It's so visual too,
Right.
Like, you can really picture someone, like, trying to take this huge bite and then realizing, like, oh no, I can't actually handle this.
Yeah, exactly. And we've all been there, right? Like, taking on too many tasks or commitments and then realizing, whoops, maybe I should have said no to a few of those.
Totally been there.
And sometimes, you have to, like, step back and kind of prioritize what's really important.
for sure.
And that's where the idiom put something on the back burner comes in.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. It's like saying, okay, this is important, but it can wait for now.
Exactly, yeah. You're not saying it's not important, just that it's not the top priority right this second.
Right. Okay, so that's super useful in a work context for sure.
Totally. And sometimes, you just need a fresh perspective on something. So you might ask for like a fresh pair of eyes on a project.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one too. I've definitely been in situations where I'm like too close to a problem and I need someone else to like take a look and give me their opinion.
Exactly. It's like you're stuck in your own head and you need someone to come in with a different point of view.
Totally. It's amazing how these idioms can like capture those tricky work situations so perfectly.
Right. Okay, but let's shift gears a bit and talk about some social situations.
Okay, cool.
So imagine you're hanging out with friends and someone suggests doing something that you're like really not into. Like maybe they want to go bungee jumping, but you're terrified of heights.
Oh, no.
You could politely decline by saying, it's not my cup of tea.
Okay, I like that one. That's a good way to say no without like being rude or, making a big deal out of it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all about like keeping things light and avoiding any awkwardness.
Yeah, because you don't want to be like, no way, that's crazy.
Exactly.
Okay, so idioms are all about expressing yourself.
Yeah. Oh.
But like in a way that takes the social situation into account.
Exactly. Yeah. They can help you navigate those subtle social dynamics.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so speaking of awkward situations, have you ever like made a mistake and just wanted to pretend it never happened?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Well, in those moments, you might say, don't cry over spilled milk.
Oh, okay. So it's like a reminder that dwelling on past mistakes doesn't really help anything.
Right. It's better to just learn from the experience and move on.
Totally. That's such good advice. And not just for language learning either.
Exactly. It applies to pretty much every area of life.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, so speaking of life lessons, did you ever hear that saying, the early bird gets the worm?
Oh, of course. It's a classic.
My grandma used to say that all the time. It's all about being proactive and like seizing opportunities, right?
Exactly. It's like that whole idea of, the early bird gets the worm. So if you want to succeed, you got to be willing to get up early and put in the effort.
Yeah, make things happen.
Exactly. Okay, so on that note, I think we should get down to business and move on to some advanced idioms.
Ooh, okay, I'm ready. Bring on the challenge. Okay, hit me with those advanced level idioms. I'm feeling pretty good after those beginner and intermediate ones. Like, what kind of super cool phrases are we getting into now?
Well, think about this. You're in a meeting, right? And you want to make sure everyone is really like thinking critically about an idea. You could say something like, let's play devil's advocate for a moment.
Ooh, yeah, I definitely heard that one before. But honestly, I never really knew exactly how to use it myself.
Right.
So it's like you're intentionally taking the opposite stance, right?
Yeah.
Just to kind of like spark some debate and make sure everyone is really thinking things through.
Exactly. It's like you're testing the strength of an argument and also making sure you're not just going along with the crowd.
Right. It shows you're really thinking deeply and considering all the angles.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it. It's definitely a good way to make sure everyone's paying attention. Okay, here's one I've definitely experienced, but I never knew the idiom for it. When there's a big, obvious problem, but everyone is trying to just ignore it.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about the elephant in the room.
Yes, that's it.
It's that issue that's like so glaringly obvious, but for some reason, nobody wants to address it.
Right. Like everyone's just tiptoeing around, pretending it's not there. It could be anything, really.
Yeah, a looming deadline, a conflict between people, anything.
It's so true. But like acknowledging it out loud, using that idiom, that can actually be a good way to break the tension.
Totally. Yeah. Sometimes just naming it, saying, okay, there's an elephant in the room here, can be the first step to actually dealing with the problem.
I like that. It shows you're not afraid to face the issue head on.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got playing devil's advocate and naming the elephant. Those are some pretty good tools for navigating tricky conversations. Any other advanced idioms I should have in my back pocket?
Well, let's talk about skepticism. In this day and age, we're just bombarded with information all the time.
Right. From every direction.
It's so important to be a little discerning. Don't just believe everything you hear at face value.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where the idiom, take it with a grain of salt, comes in.
Okay. I've definitely heard that one before.
Yep.
But I'll be honest, I always thought it had something to do with actual salt.
Haha, right. Literally taking a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
But no, it actually means to approach information with a little bit of healthy skepticism. Don't just accept everything blindly. do your research, think about who's saying it, form your own conclusions.
That is such a valuable skill these days, with all the news and opinions flying around online. Like, knowing that idiom gives me a way to, like, express that skepticism in a conversation.
Totally. And, sometimes people just try to avoid dealing with problems completely. They just keep pushing things off, hoping they'll magically disappear.
Oh, I know people like that. Always kicking the can down the road.
That's the one. It's like the perfect way to describe procrastination or avoiding responsibility. But those problems rarely solve themselves.
So true. It's better to, like, just face the challenge rather than letting it get bigger and bigger.
I couldn't agree more. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about idioms for all kinds of situations, from expressing good luck to dealing with tricky conversations and difficult problems.
I feel like I could walk into any conversation now and, like, just nail it.
That's great.
These idioms are like, more than just words. They're like tools to really understand and express those subtle parts of English.
Absolutely. And the best part is, this is just the beginning. There are so many more idioms out there waiting to be discovered.
I'm ready for the challenge.
Keep exploring, keep practicing, and most importantly, have fun with it.
That's the best advice. Thanks so much for taking me on this deep dive into the world of idioms. It's been so much fun.
My pleasure. It's been great chatting with you. And remember, language is constantly evolving, so keep your ears open for new and interesting idioms. You never know what you might find. All right, listeners, so you're ready to kind of ditch that textbook English and really start sounding like a natural, right? We get it. You're so over... Hello, how are you?
It's time to level up.
Yeah, it's time to level up.
Right.
Dive into the kind of phrases that native speakers actually use. The ones that add color and personality to their conversations.
That's right. We're going way beyond basic vocabulary here.
Yeah.
This is about understanding those subtle nuances of everyday English.
Yes.
And how to use them to express yourself more effectively.
And luckily for us, you've shared some really cool source material.
Yes.
A script from an advanced English learning podcast.
That's right.
But instead of just listing out the phrases, we're going to unpack what makes them advanced and how they reveal some really interesting things about the way English speakers think.
Exactly. It's like taking a peek behind the curtain of everyday language.
I love that. Okay, so let's jump right in.
Okay.
We'll start by imagining you're waking up, maybe feeling a little groggy. And instead of just saying, I need coffee, you drop, I could really use a coffee. What's the difference here?
Well, on the surface, they seem similar, but I could really use a coffee adds this layer of urgency, almost desperation.
Right.
Without being overly dramatic.
Yes.
It's like saying, this coffee isn't just a want, it's a need.
Right. It's like you're subtly hinting that if you don't get that caffeine fix soon, you might just short circuit.
Right.
But in a funny way, of course.
Exactly.
Exactly. And then there's the classic, I'm running on fumes. Now, that's a phrase that really paints a picture.
It does.
Yeah.
It makes me think of like a beat up old car sputtering down the road about to conk out.
That's it. That's exactly it.
Right.
It's funny because it taps into this kind of shared cultural understanding of cars and, their limitations, but it also subtly highlights that feeling of being totally depleted, like you've used up all your energy reserves.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you've had your coffee and maybe stumbled through a few emails. Now imagine you're at work or school and someone wants to schedule a meeting. Instead of just saying, let's talk later, you hit them with, let's touch base later. Now, this is one of my favorites because it sounds so professional yet casual at the same time.
It is. And it's a great example of how advanced English speakers often use indirect language, especially in professional settings. Let's touch base later is less formal than scheduling a specific meeting, but it still shows that you're interested in connecting.
Right. It's like saying, I'm open to talking, but let's keep it flexible for now.
And that flexibility is key. It allows you to manage your time and your workload without committing to anything concrete just yet.
So it's a great way to sound approachable while still maintaining control of your schedule. I like it.
It's a subtle power move, for sure. Now, another phrase from the work section that caught my eye was, I'll pencil it in. There's something about this phrase that just feels so non-committal.
Totally. It makes me think of those old appointment books where you could just easily erase something if plans changed.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what this phrase conveys. You're acknowledging the request, but you're not carving it in stone. It's like saying, I'm willing to try to make this work, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
So it's perfect for those situations where you want to be helpful, but also need to leave yourself some wiggle room.
Exactly. And that's something you'll notice about a lot of these advanced phrases. They allow you to navigate social situations with more finesse and diplomacy.
Okay, so we've conquered the morning and survived the workday.
Yeah.
Now it's time to unwind and maybe meet up with some friends.
Sounds like a good plan. See what phrases we can find for that. From those social conversation phrases, what's the game plan? Always stands out to me. It's so casual and playful,
I know.
yet it's used all the time by native English speakers.
All the time. And it's funny how it borrows from the world of sports, even when you're just talking about, what to do that evening. It's definitely more dynamic than just saying, what's the plan?
Right? It suggests this sense of strategy and excitement,
Yeah.
like you're embarking on a fun adventure together. And it really highlights how English speakers often use these metaphors from different domains
Yes.
to add color and energy to their language.
And then there's I'm on the fence. I love this one because it uses such a vivid image to express indecision.
It's a great example of how a simple metaphor can really add depth and complexity to a statement.
Right.
Instead of just saying, I don't know,
Right.
you're conveying this sense of internal struggle, like you're weighing the options carefully.
It's like you're saying, I see both sides and I'm stuck in the middle trying to make a decision.
Exactly. And that visual imagery makes it more engaging for the listener, Instead of just hearing you state your indecision, they can actually picture you teetering on that fence.
Okay, so let's say you've made a decision. You're hanging out with friends, but you're starting to feel a bit tired.
Okay.
This is where a phrase like, let's wind down, comes in handy.
Oh, I love how gentle this phrase sounds. It suggests a gradual transition from, a state of activity to a more relaxed mode.
It's like slowly turning down the volume on the day.
And it reflects this cultural value of taking time to de-stress, to unwind after a busy day.
Yes.
It's not about abruptly stopping everything, but easing into a state of rest and rejuvenation.
It's almost like acknowledging that you need time to recharge your batteries before you can fully switch off. Now I'm running out of steam. From that same section that you shared, that one really resonates with me. It perfectly captures that feeling of having depleted your energy reserves.
It does, doesn't it?
Huh?
It's like admitting that you've hit a wall and you need to slow down.
Sometimes I feel like we could all benefit from embracing this phrase more. It's a way to acknowledge our limits and prioritize self-care.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that it's okay to step back and take a break when you need it. And it's a great phrase to use with colleagues or friends when you need to signal that it's time to wrap things up.
Speaking of wrapping things up, let's call it a night, is a classic way to signal that the day is done.
It is. And it's often used in a communal setting,
Yes.
implying a shared decision to, end the activity and head home. There's a sense of camaraderie in it,
I agree.
like you're all in this together.
It's like saying, okay, team, we've had a good run, but it's time to hit the reset button and recharge for tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's often a sense of satisfaction implied, like you've accomplished what you set out to do,
Yes.
and now it's time to relax and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Going through these phrases, it strikes me how much they reveal about our daily routines and social interactions.
It's true. They're not just about conveying information, they're about navigating social situations smoothly
Right.
and building connections with others. And they often tap into shared cultural values and understandings.
Now, before we move on, there were a couple more phrases from the work and productivity section that I thought were really interesting.
Oh, do tell. Which ones caught your eye?
Well, one that really stood out was, let's put this on the back burner. I love how it allows you to prioritize without completely dismissing something.
It's a brilliant way to acknowledge a task's importance while also deferring it to a later time. It's like saying, we see you task, but you're not the main course right now. We'll get to you eventually.
And it's much gentler than just saying, no, we're not doing that right now.
Exactly. It maintains a sense of collaboration and keeps the lines of communication open. Now, another phrase from that section that I find quite interesting is, that's a no-brainer.
I know, it's so satisfying to say, like you're stating the obvious
Yep.
in a confident and even slightly playful way.
It is.
Yeah.
And it often implies that the decision is so clear-cut that it requires no real thought. It's like saying, come on, this is easy. Even a child could figure this out.
So I imagine there are times when using it might come across as a bit arrogant, right?
That's a good point. You definitely want to be mindful of the context in your relationship with the person you're speaking to. But used appropriately, it can be a great way to express certainty and conviction.
Okay, so back burner for things we can postpone and no-brainer for the obvious choices. What else do we have from that section?
Yes. I need to wrap my head around this is another one that highlights a common experience.
Yes.
Grappling with a complex concept.
It's so relatable. It's like you're saying, give me a minute to process this information. My brain is doing somersaults trying to make sense of it all.
Exactly. And it's a great way to buy yourself some time and mental space to think things through.
Now, finally, from the work and productivity section, we have, let's call it a wrap.
This one feels very decisive.
It does.
Like you're drawing a clear line in the sand and saying, we're done here, time to move on.
It does. And it often comes with a sense of accomplishment, a shared feeling of we did it. It's a great way to boost morale and celebrate teamwork.
It's like a verbal high five. Okay, so we've covered some great phrases for wrapping up the workday.
We have.
But I'm curious, what are some phrases that can help us navigate those evening hours, especially when energy levels start to dip?
Right. And one that comes to mind is I'm running out of steam. It's a great way to express that feeling of depletion, like you've hit a wall and you need to recharge. Oh, it's so relatable. It's like saying, my battery's about to die, but in a more human, less robotic way.
Exactly. And it often implies a need for rest and rejuvenation. It's a signal to yourself and others that it's time to slow down and prioritize self-care.
It's like a gentle reminder that even the most energetic people need time to refuel, you know?
It is. Now, you mentioned, let's call it a night earlier, which is a classic way to signal the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think what I like about that one is how it often becomes this shared decision. Like you're all agreeing to kind of collectively hit the pause button and embrace the rest.
Absolutely. There's a sense of camaraderie in it, a recognition that you've all put in the effort, and now it's time to unwind together.
Okay, so we've explored all these fantastic phrases, but I'm curious what exactly makes them advanced? What sets them apart from the more basic vocabulary we learn in textbooks?
That's a great question. One key factor is their nuance. They often convey meaning beyond just the literal words, like let's touch base later, for example. It's not just about talking, it's about a specific type of check-in, one that's brief and informal.
Right, and I'll pencil it in is more than just a simple yes. It suggests flexibility, a possibility of change.
Exactly. Another element is their idiomatic nature. These phrases aren't always grammatically straightforward, but they're packed with meaning. Running on fumes isn't something you'd typically find in a textbook.
Right, but it paints such a vivid picture and connects to a shared experience we all understand.
And I'm on the fence. That's a metaphor that adds a layer of depth to a simple statement of indecision. It brings a visual element to the conversation.
Okay, so nuance, idiomatic expressions. What else?
Well, advanced language users are also very attuned to context. These phrases can have slightly different meanings depending on the situation.
Oh, that's so true. Like, let's call it a wrap. Could be the celebratory declaration after a successful project, or it could be a sigh of relief after a particularly challenging day.
Precisely, and that's where observation comes in. Pay attention to how native speakers use these phrases, the subtle shifts in tone, the accompanying body language. All of that contributes to the meaning.
So it's not just about memorizing phrases, it's about understanding their nuances, their cultural implications, their flexibility.
Exactly. It's about developing a feel for the language, a sense of how it's used in real-life situations.
So listener, I hope you're feeling inspired to start sprinkling these advanced phrases into your own conversations. Don't be afraid to experiment and have fun with it.
Yes, and remember that fluency isn't about perfection. It's about confidence and connection. The more you use these phrases, the more natural they'll become.
And who knows, you might even start noticing them pop up in conversations around you.
That's a great point. As you become more attuned to these nuances, you'll start hearing them everywhere. And that's when you know you're really starting to master the language.
It's like unlocking a secret level of communication. Well, listener, we've reached the end of our deep dive into advanced English phrases. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and learned some valuable tips for leveling up your conversation skills. Remember, the key is to keep practicing, keep experimenting, and most importantly, have fun with it.
All right, so are you ready for this? You've sent in quite a collection of notes and lists and excerpts all about advanced English idioms.
Wow.
It's really impressive. And it looks like you're trying to level up your conversational fluency, and I am totally here for it. And lucky for us, we've got an expert here who can unpack not just what these idioms mean, but also like where they come from and how to use them, like a pro.
I think it's so fascinating to see so many idioms that go beyond just the basic ones that everyone knows.
Right.
You've chosen phrases that are really expressive and that can add a whole new dimension to your communication.
Exactly. And you know what always gets me about idioms? It's like they're like these little time capsules.
Right.
You know, they give us a glimpse into how people thought and spoke in the past. Like to burn the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
Who knew there was so much history packed into that phrase?
Right. That one takes us all the way back to when candles were the main source of light.
Wow.
So, burning a candle at both ends meant you were really pushing your limits,
Yeah.
working late into the night,
Yeah.
rising early. It's really fascinating how that image has stayed with us.
Right.
Even though we don't use candles in the same way anymore.
I know, right. So it's not just a saying, it's like a whole story.
Exactly.
And speaking of stories,
Yes.
we've got a whole section here
Sure.
about morning and productivity idioms. And
Oh, yeah.
I got to say, some of them are a little too relatable, if you know what I mean.
Well, it makes sense, though, doesn't it? Because, work and productivity are such big parts of our lives.
Oh, for sure.
That it's only natural that these things would find their way into our language.
Right.
And these idioms often use very vivid imagery
Yes.
to capture those feelings of hustle and pressure.
For sure. Like, hit the ground running.
Oh, yeah.
I swear that's me every Monday morning. It's like you're trying to catch up before you've even had your coffee.
It's such a powerful image, isn't it? You can practically feel the momentum and the urgency in that phrase.
Right.
And then there's keep your nose to the grindstone.
Yes.
That one really evokes a sense of relentless effort, almost like you're physically grinding away at a task.
Okay, but isn't keep your nose to the grindstone sometimes seen as kind of a negative thing? Like mindlessly working without questioning things.
That's a great point. It definitely can have that connotation, especially in today's world where we really value, creativity and critical thinking.
Right.
The idiom itself might come from the image of sharpening tools on a grindstone.
Oh, okay.
Which requires a lot of focus and repetitive motion. So it does reflect a certain work ethic, but maybe not always the most innovative one.
Interesting. So it's like the idiom itself has evolved along with our changing attitudes toward work.
Exactly.
But sometimes you just need that reminder to buckle down and get things done, right?
Totally.
And speaking of perspective shifts, there's a blessing in disguise.
Oh, yeah.
It reminds us that things aren't always what they seem.
Absolutely. It's about finding the silver lining, recognizing that setbacks can sometimes lead to unexpected opportunities.
Right.
It encourages a more optimistic outlook even when we are faced with challenges.
So true. Okay, but let's be honest.
Yeah.
Work idioms can be a bit tricky.
I agree.
You got to use them carefully depending on who you're talking to and what you're trying to say.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Some of these idioms, especially those used in business contexts,
Yeah.
require a certain level of awareness and finesse.
For sure. Like playing devil's advocate.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen that one backfire spectacularly when used in the wrong way.
Oh, definitely. It's all about tone and intent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Playing devil's advocate can be a powerful tool for stimulating discussion and challenging assumptions. Yeah.
But if you're not careful, it can come across as argumentative or even disrespectful.
Exactly. So how do you use it effectively
Oh.
without, sounding like a jerk?
First, it's crucial to establish a rapport with the person that you're speaking with.
Okay.
Make it very clear that your intention is to explore different perspectives, not to attack their ideas.
Okay.
You might even preface it with something like, just to play devil's advocate for a moment.
Right.
Or you could say, let me challenge that assumption.
Right.
Something like that.
That makes sense. It's like setting the stage for a constructive debate rather than a personal attack.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about winning an argument.
Right.
It's about broadening perspectives and potentially uncovering new insights.
Right.
But sometimes there are situations where being direct is the best approach.
For sure.
Like addressing the elephant in the room.
Oh, I love that one. It's so evocative. Like you can practically feel the tension in the air. It's a powerful way to acknowledge an unspoken issue or problem that everyone is aware of but hesitant to address directly.
Yeah.
It can be uncomfortable,
For
but
sure.
also incredibly liberating to finally bring it out into the open.
Right.
And it can certainly be more effective than beating around the bush.
Okay, but can we talk about the fun idioms for a second?
Oh, yeah.
The ones that just make you smile when you hear them?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
There's a certain playfulness to some idioms, especially those related to social situations and food.
Right. Like, bite off more than you can chew. It's such a vivid image. And I feel like we've all been there at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Like that time I tried to bake a 5-tier cake for my friend's birthday.
Oh, no.
Let's just say it didn't end well.
That's a perfect example. It's about taking on more than you can handle.
Right.
Whether it's a project or a commitment or even a plate of food.
For sure. And it's interesting how food imagery is often used to express complex emotions or experiences.
Oh, absolutely.
Ooh, I see what you did there. Food for thought, right.
Exactly.
But you're totally right.
Yeah.
Like, spill the beans. It's such a lighthearted way to talk about revealing a secret,
Right.
even if the secret itself might be serious.
Exactly. It takes something potentially awkward or
Yes,
tense and frames it in a more playful way.
Yeah.
And, not my cup of tea.
Oh, yeah?
It's a gentle way to express disinterest without being harsh or judgmental.
Right.
It allows you to politely decline something without offending the other person.
Right. It's like saying, hey, I respect your thing, but it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine. Everyone has their own preferences. But speaking of things we'd rather avoid,
Uh-oh.
can we talk about crying over spilled milk for a second?
Okay.
I feel like that's something we're all guilty of sometimes, even though we know it's not helpful.
Oh, absolutely. It's a reminder that dwelling on the past, especially on things we can't change,
Right.
is rarely productive. It's about accepting what is learning from our mistakes and moving on.
That actually leads perfectly into the next section.
Which is, don't keep me in suspense.
Emotions and reactions.
Okay.
This is where idioms get really interesting
Yeah.
because they allow us to express those tricky feelings that are hard to put into words.
Absolutely. Idioms give us a shared vocabulary for navigating complex emotional terrain.
Yeah.
It's like they provide a shorthand for experiences we all understand.
Like hit the nail on the head, for example.
Oh, yeah.
It perfectly captures that feeling of getting something exactly right,
Yes.
whether it's an idea or an explanation or even a joke.
And a hard pill to swallow.
Ooh, yeah.
That one evokes a sense of resistance, of something being difficult to accept, even if we know it's true.
Right.
It's like you can almost feel that lump in your throat as you're trying to force it down.
It's such a visceral image, isn't it? And then there's cold feet.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, who hasn't experienced those pre-event jitters
Right.
at some point in their lives?
It's a universal feeling of hesitation or anxiety, usually before a big decision or event.
Yeah.
And the idiom perfectly captures that sense of wanting to back out, even though you've already committed.
But then you have idioms like keep your chin up
Yes.
that are all about resilience and staying positive even when things are tough.
That one speaks to a cultural value, I think. This idea of facing adversity with courage and determination, of not letting setbacks define you. It's about finding the strength to keep going even when it feels difficult.
And let sleeping dogs lie.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the best advice you can give.
It's about choosing your battles, knowing when to let go of past grievances or conflicts that are no longer serving you.
Right.
It's recognizing that sometimes stirring things up
Yeah.
will only make the situation worse.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Oh, tell me more.
A lot of these idioms seem to be about taking action,
Okay.
making decisions and figuring out how to move forward.
You're right. That's a great observation.
Yeah.
Our next batch of idioms is all about agency and how we navigate the choices we face in life. They offer a glimpse into how we approach challenges, make decisions, and ultimately shape our own destinies.
Okay, so let's talk about throwing in the towel.
Okay.
That's a pretty powerful image, right?
Yeah.
Like admitting defeat, but also having the strength to walk away.
Exactly. It's recognizing when a situation is no longer worth fighting for.
Yeah.
And having the courage to move on. It's not always easy,
Right.
but sometimes it's the most sensible choice.
Right. And then there's the ball is in your court.
Oh, yeah.
I use that one all the time, especially at work.
Yeah.
It's a great way to hand off responsibility without being,
Right.
bossy about it.
It's a subtle way to shift the onus onto the other person, making it clear that it's their turn to act.
Right.
It's often used in negotiations or collaborative projects where clear communication about roles and expectations is really crucial.
So it's all about setting boundaries and being clear about who's doing what.
Exactly.
I like that. But sometimes you just got to go with the flow, right?
Yeah, right.
That's where play it by ear comes in handy.
Absolutely. It's a flexible approach,
Yeah.
open to improvisation and serendipity. It can be very liberating, especially in situations where you don't have all the information
Right.
or where things are constantly changing.
Totally. Like when you're traveling and you don't have a strict itinerary, you just see where the day takes you.
Exactly.
But as you said, it can be risky if you need a solid plan.
Right.
Speaking of risk, what about jumping on the bandwagon?
Okay.
I feel like that one can be either positive or negative,
Right.
depending on the context.
It definitely has two sides to it.
Yeah.
On the one hand, It speaks to our social nature, our desire to be part of something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
But it can also lead to herd mentality,
Oh, for sure.
where people blindly follow trends without thinking critically.
That's so true. It's like just because everyone else is doing something
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's the right thing to do.
Right.
Sometimes you need to like step back and ask yourself,
Yeah.
am I doing this because I genuinely believe in it?
Right.
Or am I just following the crowd?
Exactly. Critical thinking is key.
Yeah.
And speaking of questioning things,
Yes.
how about barking up the wrong tree?
Okay.
I think we've all been there at some point, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely. Like I can think of a few embarrassing situations where I was
Yeah.
completely off track, like blaming the wrong person
Right.
or focusing on the wrong problem.
It's a good reminder to check our assumptions
Yeah.
to make sure we're focusing our energy in the right direction.
Right.
Sometimes we need to step back, reassess the situation, and maybe even ask for help to get a fresh perspective.
Right. Because sometimes you're so focused on your own viewpoint
Right.
that you miss the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Let's talk about conversations and relationships.
Okay.
Idioms play a huge role in how we communicate with each other.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to those subtle nuances
Right.
that are hard to express directly.
You're absolutely right. These idioms offer fascinating insights into the dynamics of human interaction,
Yeah.
from casual conversations to deep, meaningful connections.
Like a penny for your thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a simple phrase,
Right.
but it shows genuine interest in what the other person is thinking or feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an invitation to open up and share.
It's a gentle way to encourage communication
Yeah.
without being too intrusive. It creates a space for the other person to express themselves freely.
And then there's keep an eye on.
Yes.
It's not just about watching something literally, right?
Right.
It's also about being attentive,
Yeah.
caring,
Yeah.
looking out for someone.
Exactly. It conveys a sense of responsibility and concern.
Mm-hmm.
It can be used in a variety of contexts.
Oh, it is.
From simply keeping an eye on a pot on the stove to looking after a friend who's going through a difficult time.
And all in the same boat. That one's a personal favorite.
Oh,
I think it's so powerful to remember that we're not alone in our struggles.
it fosters a sense of solidarity,
Yeah.
of shared experience.
Mhm.
It reminds us that we're all connected, facing similar challenges and triumphs.
Yeah,
It can be incredibly comforting, especially during tough times.
it really can. It's like that feeling of knowing you're not the only one
Yeah.
who feels a certain way or has gone through a certain experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's a powerful reminder that we're all human
Yes.
and we're all in this together.
Absolutely. And sometimes in those shared experiences,
Yeah.
we need to let go of past hurts or disagreements.
Right.
That's where an idiom like water under the bridge comes in.
Oh, that's a good one. It's like saying, hey, we've moved on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not dwell on old drama.
Exactly. It's all about forgiveness,
Yeah.
reconciliation,
Yeah.
and recognizing that holding on to grudges only weighs us down.
Exactly. It's about choosing to focus on the present and the future
Mm-hmm.
rather than being bogged down by past conflicts.
And sometimes that means starting fresh.
Right.
Wiping the slate clean is a powerful image of new beginnings.
It really is. It's like
Yeah.
hitting the reset button on a
Yeah.
relationship or a situation,
Mm-hmm.
giving everyone involved a chance to move forward without the baggage of the past.
And that can be incredibly liberating,
Yeah.
both for individuals and for relationships.
Right.
It allows for growth, healing,
Yeah.
and the possibility of building something stronger and more positive.
You know, talking about all these idioms has made me realize
Mm-hmm.
just how much they reflect our values and beliefs as a culture.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We've got idioms about hard work,
Yeah.
resilience, second chances,
Yeah.
and the importance of connection.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty fascinating.
It is, isn't it? Language is such a powerful tool for understanding ourselves
Yeah.
and the world around us.
Right.
And idioms, with their colorful imagery and their historical roots, offer a unique window into the human experience.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired to use all these idioms in my everyday conversations.
Yes.
But first, I think it's time to call it a night. What do you say?
Sounds good to me. It's been a fascinating deep dive
Yeah.
into the world of advanced English idioms.
It's like even the idioms we use to talk about relaxing and winding down it reveals something about our culture.
That's so true. Like even our leisure time is influenced by those values and beliefs that we hold.
Like take time flies when you're having fun. It's such a simple statement,
right?
But it speaks volumes about how we perceive time and enjoyment.
It really does.
It's like when you're completely absorbed in something that you love, you just lose track of everything else.
Yeah, you're just in the moment.
Yeah.
Completely present. It highlights the importance of finding those activities that bring us joy and make us feel truly present. And it suggests that those moments of genuine engagement are precious and fleeting, which makes them all the more special.
And then there's get your act together. I feel like that one's been a constant refrain in my life, especially from my parents when I was younger.
It's a call to action, isn't it?
Yeah.
A reminder to take responsibility for our choices and our behaviors. It can be a gentle nudge, or it can be a stern warning, depending on the context. But it always emphasizes the importance of self-improvement and striving to be our best selves.
It's funny how those childhood sayings stick with us, isn't it?
It really is.
But, you know, even though it might have sounded annoying at the time, there's definitely some wisdom in that idiom.
Oh, yeah.
We all need those moments to step back and reassess to make sure we're on the right track.
Absolutely. It's about taking ownership of our lives, setting goals, and making those conscious choices that align with our values.
Wow, we've covered so much ground today.
I know, right?
I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the power of idioms.
It's been a fascinating journey. Exploring the nuances of language and how it reflects our shared human experience.
Okay. My favorite has to be spill beans.
Oh, yeah.
It's so playful and visual, and it always makes me smile.
Yeah.
But I also love all in the same boat because it reminds me that we're not alone in our struggles and our triumphs.
Exactly.
What about you? Which idioms resonated most with you?
I'm drawn to a blessing in disguise. It's a reminder that even difficult experiences can have a positive impact on our lives. It encourages us to look for the silver lining, even when things feel challenging.
That's a great one. It's all about perspective, isn't it?
It is.
And finding meaning, even in the midst of adversity.
Exactly. And I think that's a powerful message to carry with us.
So to all you listeners out there, I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of advanced English idioms. We've only scratched the surface. But hopefully you've gained some new insights and maybe even a few phrases to add to your conversational repertoire.
Remember, language is a living, breathing thing, constantly evolving and adapting. Embrace the richness and complexity of idioms, and don't be afraid to experiment with them in your own conversations.
And most importantly, have fun with it.
Yes!
After all, as we learned today, time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely.
Until next time, happy idioming.
All right, welcome to the deep dive. You know why you're here, right? To get smart fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We take a mountain of info and dig out the gold. Today's gold mine, 50, count 'em, 50 advanced English words.
All neatly sorted by topic, so no matter what you're into, you'll find something.
That'll make you sound like a total pro. We're going way beyond just, dry dictionary definitions.
Think of it as your express lane to fluency.
We're going to dive deep into how to use these words in everyday life.
And in the professional world, too, we're talking productivity hacks.
Business smarts, tech talk, money matters.
Even, get this, how to understand your own emotions better.
All with these 50 powerhouse words.
Which, by the way, we've pulled from a resource made for advanced English learners.
Meaning, it's designed to help you grasp all the subtle shades of meaning.
We'll break it down category by category.
Giving you examples so you can see exactly how these words work in action.
Our mission.
Simple.
To give you a rock-solid understanding of these words.
And why they matter.
So, ready to dive in?
Let's go.
First up, a topic that hits home for all of us. Productivity and time management.
Oh yeah, time, the ultimate treasure. This is something we all grapple with every single day.
And the better we understand these words, the more we can, master our time, right?
Totally. Our source lays out 10 essential terms. Let's kick things off with efficient.
Okay, efficient. What's the official word?
The definition is doing things in the best way with the least waste.
Like, I use an efficient time management system.
Boom, right there.
I feel like that word efficient, it pops up everywhere. From how factories run to just getting your errands done quickly.
Yeah, it's all about that balance, right? Max output, min input.
You know what comes to mind? That whole Pareto principle.
80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts.
Exactly. So being efficient is like zeroing in on that powerful 20%.
Love that connection.
Yeah.
And speaking of things that can suck up our time, let's move on to something I'm sure we're all familiar with, procrastination.
Uh-oh, yeah.
Definition, delay doing something.
Right.
Example.
Let me guess. I always procrastinate on big projects.
Bingo. Human nature right there.
Oh, so human. We all know that feeling. Putting off the big, scary task, even though it just makes things worse later on.
There's got to be a reason for it though, right?
Well, psychologists talk about this thing called present bias.
Like we value what feels good now more than future reward.
Which explains why we end up scrolling through social media instead of tackling that report.
Which then forces us to, what's the word? Oh yeah, prioritize. Our next term.
Prioritize, definition.
Focus on the most important things first.
So I need to prioritize my tasks today.
Exactly. Simple idea, but game-changing when you actually put it into practice.
100%. And maybe, just maybe, if we're good at prioritizing, we won't have to,
Multitask so much.
Multitask. That's the word.
It means, well, the definition says do multiple things at the same time.
She can multitask while working on her reports? Sure, sounds amazing.
Except, here's the thing. Studies show that true multitasking is, well, kind of a myth.
Wait, really?
Yep. Most of the time, what we're doing is rapidly switching between tasks.
And every time we switch, it costs us focus and efficiency.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So ironically, trying to juggle too many things at once might make you less
productive.
That's the one, meaning getting a lot done.
I had a very productive morning. Makes you think. Maybe focusing on your top priorities and ditching the multitasking frenzy actually leads to better results.
Now you're talking. And if you do manage to become super productive, there might come a point where you need to
delegate.
Delegate it is.
Definition.
To assign work to others.
As in, a good leader knows how to delegate tasks.
Which means recognizing that you can't do it all yourself.
So true. Trying to be a superhero just leads to feeling
overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed, yep. Meaning feeling stressed with too much work.
I feel overwhelmed with my responsibilities. Been there. It's a sign, though. A sign that something's got to change.
Like maybe how you're prioritizing.
Oh, what you need to delegate. See how these words, they all kind of connect, It's a cycle.
Poor prioritizing leads to overwhelm, which then makes it hard to be productive.
Whereas effective delegation and focus help you
accomplish. What's the definition?
To successfully complete something.
I accomplished all my goals this year. That feeling.
The best. And when you consistently nail those accomplishments,
you're on your way to a healthy
work-life balance.
That's the one. Meaning
the right mix between work and personal life.
As in, maintaining work-life balance is important for mental health. Finding that sweet spot,
It's a constant dance, for sure. So you see, these productivity and time management words, they're not just words.
They're like concepts that shape how we live our lives.
They really are. Makes you think, right?
Yeah.
How many of these terms hit a nerve for you in your own daily grind?
Now let's switch gears and head into the world of business and all things professional.
A whole new playing field. And mastering these words
can really make a difference, whether you're running your own show
or climbing the corporate ladder.
Absolutely. This vocabulary is all about understanding how organizations work.
And communicating effectively.
So what's our first word in this category?
Let's start with entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. Love that word.
Definition. A person who starts a business.
He became an entrepreneur at 22.
That's the dream for a lot of people nowadays.
Yeah. The entrepreneurial spirit is definitely having a moment.
To thrive in that world, though, you got to be
innovative.
Innovative, you got it. Meaning introducing new ideas.
The company is known for its innovative technology. That ability to think outside the box is pure gold in today's fast-changing landscape.
Couldn't agree more. And sometimes those new ideas need a little
negotiation. Definition.
Discussion to reach an agreement.
Nailed it. The example sentence is,
the salary negotiation went well.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, doesn't it? Whether it's about money, resources, or deadlines, being able to negotiate win-win solutions
is crucial in any professional setting.
For sure. And you know what else helps? Being strategic. Strategic. Meaning, let's see, well planned for success.
So we need a strategic approach to marketing.
Right. It's about having that long-term vision.
Thinking several steps ahead.
Like a chess game. Then there's the whole world of
Networking.
Networking, such a buzzword.
But so important. What's the official definition?
Meeting people for business or career growth.
Networking is essential for career success. Couldn't agree more. Expanding your circle.
Making those connections that benefit everyone.
It's all about building relationships. But, when you're out there networking,
I gotta show them.
you're
Competent,
competent indeed.
meaning
Skilled and capable.
as in she is a competent project manager.
Demonstrating your skills builds that trust.
And credibility.
Exactly. But even if you're super competent, sometimes you need to be, a little...
Persuasive.
Persuasive is the word. Definition.
To be convincing others.
Like, his speech was very persuasive. Being persuasive is all about understanding your audience.
Tailoring your message so it really lands with them.
You can't just have a strong opinion.
You also got to be...
Analytical.
That's another key one.
Meaning?
Using logic and reasoning.
He has strong analytical skills. Being able to break down complex problems.
And make data-driven decisions. That's highly valued in the business world.
No doubt. And you know what else employers love?
Someone with initiative.
Yeah.
Taking action without being told.
So she showed great initiative in solving the issue.
Being proactive. Going above and beyond. That's what stands out.
For sure. And then, at the end of the day, for many businesses,
It all boils down to being
client-focused.
client-focused.
Prioritizing customers' needs.
Our company is very client-focused. It's all about the customer.
Happy customers, happy business. So this whole set of business and professional terms, it really paints a picture, doesn't it?
Of what's valued in the workplace. Totally. Mastering these words gives you a real edge in navigating that world. Which situations in your own work life make you think about these words the most?
Now, hold on to your hats. We're zooming into the lightning-fast world of technology and all things digital.
A world where the language is constantly evolving.
Staying up to date with the vocab here is basically essential for understanding, modern life.
It's the key to not feeling like a dinosaur. Let's kick things off with a big one.
Algorithm.
Algorithm, what does it mean?
It's a step-by-step set of rules for solving problems.
Social media platforms use algorithms to show content. But it's important to remember that different algorithms,
You can have different goals. Some might prioritize showing you the latest and greatest.
while others try to guess what you'll find most engaging, even if it's old news,
Fascinating. And with so much of our lives now playing out online,
cybersecurity becomes crucial.
cybersecurity. Definition.
Protecting computers from hacking,
Cybersecurity is essential for online businesses. It's like the digital security guard.
keeping our information safe from all those nasty threats. Malware, phishing attempts,
The whole shebang. Then, of course, there's the ever-expanding world of
artificial intelligence or AI.
AI. That's the one everyone's talking about.
Definition: machines that think like humans.
AI is revolutionizing many industries, from self-driving cars to, believe it or not, medical diagnoses.
It's mind-blowing how fast it's evolving. And a lot of this tech relies on
Cloud computing.
cloud computing. Definition:
Storing data on the internet.
most companies use cloud computing for storage. It's like having this massive shared online space,
Accessible from anywhere.
which leads to a data-driven approach,
Data-driven. What does that mean?
making decisions based on facts and numbers.
We use a data-driven approach for marketing. Makes sense. We're swimming in data these days.
Being able to analyze it and use it to make smart choices
Is more important than ever. But here's the thing. All this digital activity,
leaves behind a
digital footprint,
digital footprint. It is. Definition:
the online record of someone's activities.
your digital footprint can affect job opportunities. Food for thought. Right.
Big time.
Right.
What we do online can have real-world consequences.
Absolutely. Another huge force in the digital world is
Automation.
automation. What does it mean?
Using technology to do tasks without humans.
Automation improves efficiency in factories.
Streamlining processes, reducing the need for manual labor, especially in those repetitive tasks.
It's changing the game across so many industries.
And then, of course, there's how we consume entertainment these days. Through streaming. Definition.
Watching videos or music online without downloading.
So I prefer streaming movies instead of downloading them.
It's all about that instant access.
On-demand entertainment.
Right.
And let's not forget the giant elephant in the digital room.
E-commerce.
E-commerce. Definition.
Buying and selling online.
E-commerce has changed the way we shop. It's transformed retail.
Brought a whole new level of convenience. But to keep all those online transactions safe. Encryption,
Encryption, yep.
meaning
Protecting information by converting it into code.
Banking apps use encryption for security. Scrambling our data so only the right people can read it.
So, you see, this tech and digital vocabulary,
It's not just about keeping up with the latest gadgets.
it's about understanding the fundamental shifts happening all around us.
Being a savvy citizen of the digital age, which of these tech terms pops up most often in your world?
Now, let's talk about something that affects us all every single day. Shopping and finance.
Money matters. And knowing these words can really help you make smarter choices with your cash.
Absolutely. First up, we've got
Disposable income,
disposable income.
meaning money left after paying expenses.
As in, I use my disposable income for travel.
Knowing how much you have left after the bills are paid.
Is the cornerstone of budgeting and financial planning.
The foundation of it all.
Yeah.
Of course, what you can actually buy with that disposable income.
To be affected by
Inflation.
inflation. Yep. Meaning,
The increase in prices over time.
like, inflation has made everything more expensive. It's crazy how much prices have gone up.
There are actually different types of inflation.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, you've got demand pull inflation, where too much money's chasing too few goods.
Which drives prices up.
And then there's cost push inflation, where rising production costs get passed on to us consumers.
So it's like a double whammy. Once you've got a handle on your disposable income, you might think about
Investment,
investment, meaning,
putting money into something to gain profit.
as in, real estate is a good investment.
But there are all sorts of investments out there.
Stocks, bonds, you name it.
Understanding how they work is key for long-term financial growth.
And don't forget about interest rates.
Interest rates. That's
The
the
cost of borrowing money.
interest rates are rising this year, which affects everything.
Mortgages, business loans, you name it.
If you're trying to free up more disposable income for investing, you might consider being more
Frugal,
frugal. I like that word.
it means careful about spending money. I live a frugal lifestyle to save money, making conscious choices.
Being mindful of where your money goes and when you do spend.
It's always good to know if something is
Refundable.
refundable. Definition.
Can be returned for money back.
This item is refundable within 30 days.
Gives you a bit of a safety net. Then, every time you buy something, you're making a
Transaction.
transaction. Yep.
Definition.
An exchange of money.
Online transactions are becoming more common.
Cash, digital payments, so many ways to move money around these days. Now, sometimes the whole economy hits a rough patch. What do we call that?
A recession.
Recession, meaning
A period of economic decline.
the country is facing a recession. It can affect jobs, business profits.
The whole picture. For those who are into investing, understanding
Stock market is essential.
stock market, that's where
You buy and sell shares of publicly traded companies.
little pieces of big businesses.
Exactly. And as the saying goes, the stock market is unpredictable.
No kidding. Finally, for businesses, a crucial metric is
Revenue,
revenue, meaning
money earned by a business.
our company's revenue increased by 20% this year. That's the money coming in before any expenses.
The lifeblood of any business. So as you can see, these shopping and finance words,
They give us a glimpse into the inner workings of both personal finance.
and the broader economy.
It all connects. Thinking about your own finances, which of these terms has the biggest impact on your day-to-day decisions? Okay, last but certainly not least, we're diving into the fascinating world of emotions and personal development.
Understanding ourselves and how we relate to others.
This is where it gets really interesting. What's our first word in this category?
Let's start with resilient.
Resilient. Love that word.
It means able to recover from difficulties.
Like she is very resilient after facing challenges.
Being able to bounce back from setbacks. That's a key ingredient for growth.
No doubt. And a powerful tool for navigating those ups and downs is
Mindfulness.
mindfulness.
Yeah.
Definition.
Being aware of the present moment.
Practicing mindfulness helps reduce stress. It's about being present.
Without judgment.
And right alongside mindfulness, we have
Self-awareness.
self-awareness, meaning
Understanding yourself.
self-awareness is key to personal growth.
Yeah.
Knowing your strengths, weaknesses, values, those emotional triggers.
It's foundational for making positive changes. Now, when it comes to connecting with others,
Being charismatic can be a real advantage.
charismatic. Definition.
Attracting people with personality.
He is a charismatic speaker. It's that magnetic quality that draws people in.
For sure. But charisma isn't everything. for truly meaningful connections.
You need empathy.
Empathy.
Definition.
Understanding others' feelings.
Good leaders show empathy for their team, putting yourself in someone else's shoes.
Seeing the world through their eyes. That's powerful.
It really is. And you know what else can have a big impact on our well-being?
Gratitude.
Gratitude it is.
Meaning thankfulness.
Practicing gratitude improves happiness.
Appreciating the good things in life, both big and small.
It can really shift your perspective. Now, on the flip side,
Sometimes we get stuck in the trap of
overthinking.
overthinking. Definition.
Thinking too much about something.
I tend to overthink decisions. Been there? The key is recognizing when you're spiraling.
And then finding ways to break free, of course, to achieve our big goals.
We need a healthy dose of
Ambition.
meaning
Having big goals.
like she is ambitious and wants to be CEO, setting your sights high.
And going for it. But ambition without
Authenticity.
can lead you astray.
Authenticity
Being
meaning
real and genuine.
as in people appreciate authentic leaders. Being true to yourself.
Aligning your actions with your values.
That's what builds trust. And finally, we have
Intuitive.
intuitive, definite.
Understanding things without explanation.
She has an intuitive sense of people's emotions, that gut feeling.
The instinct that goes beyond logic. So, you see, this whole realm of emotions and personal development
It gives us tools to understand our inner world.
and our relationships with others.
It's a journey of self-discovery. Which of these words resonates most deeply with you right now on your own personal journey? Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into these 50 advanced vocabulary words.
We've covered so much ground, from getting things done to the complexities of the business world
The ever-evolving landscape of technology, the ins and outs of finance.
and the rich tapestry of human emotions.
You're now equipped to use these words with precision and confidence,
To communicate your ideas more effectively.
to navigate the world with greater awareness and understanding. As you reflect on this deep dive, ask yourself,
Which words were completely new to you?
and which ones gave you a fresh perspective?
A new way of seeing things. Now, for our final thought.
Something to ponder as you go about your day.
Imagine this. How might consciously weaving even a few of these words into your everyday vocabulary,
Change the way you perceive the world.
the way you interact with others?
The power of language is truly transformative.
More than you might think.